Pentecostal science program, and just.
Your faith?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, for example, having my first biology class, the professor saying, if you believe in intelligent design, if you don't accept the theory of evolution in its fullest, you have no right studying science, and you should not be in this class. That's just an example. So my comment is, I'm very grateful that schools like Holy Spirit Academy exist to prepare young people for their college education, or for entering into college to be able to sort of fight that battle. But just wondering how are you going about preparing the teens in this school for that? Because I'm just more curious about it. And then the second question is, how do we as Catholics promote this in our environment when we're working in the secular world? Because not all of us have the privilege of working in a Catholic environment.
Ooh, yikes. Well,
to the first question, how do we prepare the kids at Holy Spirit Academy? Basically, I have some text prepared where I have this presentation light, so that they've got at least a few, arguments to put in their arsenal to be ready to talk about it. And we talk about it in class regularly too, and at least in the science class that I teach, and I think the other science classes are more or less the same. We revisit it over and over again so that they don't feel like, oh, I heard that once, and what did we say about that? It'll be more it'll be more familiar with it if it ever does come up. Oh, we said these things, and this is not a topic that I need to shy away from. So I guess trying to give them at least the basics to defend the position a little bit, and habituate them to be comfortable talking about it, I guess. It's in a classroom setting, you do what you can, but that's what I try to do. And then the second question was, what can we do when we don't work in a Catholic environment? Be prepared to defend the truth of the faith if you have to, by educating yourself, reading good books, talking with friends that share the same values, and steel sharpens steel. What else? Read good books, have good friends that you can talk about these things with. Pray for that the words will come to you when the time comes. But don't be afraid.
Other questions? I have a question. Sure. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. I love the paper. No, I am wondering about one term that is assumed in various accounts of evolution, secular or not, and that's species. And so it seems to me that one distinction that's frequently made in considering the evolution of species is how you would distinguish degrees of evolution among species that are different, but that implies you have some understanding of species. So I'm wondering if you could distinguish what you would mean by species and how evolution would occur from one species to another. If there's some plausible scientific evidence that happens.
Under a naturalistic or a materialistic view?
Yeah, well, or even in terms of some of the things that you're saying, that it seems that Providence could arrange a natural order where forms are inclined to improve themselves somehow.
Like the story you were saying about the finches, aren't they all still finches?
Right, yeah, so like
So I was confused by that.
finches are an interesting example where they're all still sort of technically in the same family, right?
They're related in some secondary way. I think they're considered different species, though. They are considered different species. Like the African elephant and the Indian elephant, I'm certain of that, but those are considered different species. They're not just subspecies anymore, which is a recent, what would you say, not recent discovery, but a recent delineation that's been made, because for a long time it was thought that they were more or less different breeds or maybe like different subspecies, but apparently it's
taxonomy is kind of one question. I think maybe a deeper question is when you're talking about a hierarchy of species, how hierarchies would emerge on the basis of intrinsic, or intrinsic constitution. How would somebody with a given intrinsic constitution improve on that constitution in a way that somebody new is going to come out? So I'm wondering about what kind of explanations you would have for something like that.
Well, okay, so you have a species, a single species, and then it starts developing. And is the question, how would you be able to determine it's a new kind of thing now?
Right, and what would you mean by that, I guess? What do you mean by species then?
Well, I don't have the technical term handy, but a species would be just a kind of animal. A dog is one kind of animal, a cat's another kind of animal, a bird's another kind of animal. And even within those, you'd have to go talk to an expert in that field to kind of say, so when can you say that it's not a dog anymore, it's a wolf or something like that, because they are so similar. Someone who's not really familiar with how things are divided in that science would be hard-pressed to say exactly why. So, being one of those people, I mean, how would you say that, okay, so if I understand the question correctly, how would you determine that, okay, this development's been going on over here for so much time, now this is a different species from what this thing was before?
And I'm talking really amongst like difference in families or something. Again, I'm not exactly sure on the proper taxonomy for all of this, how you divide everything in the names you give it. I'm thinking like, tadpoles in the mud versus biped or something. Like there's some stages of change that are radically different. And it seems like there needs to be some point where scientifically that change must have occurred that really fundamentally changes the species, right?
Yeah, you're talking about a tadpole to a biped, like a tadpole to a monkey, not a tadpole to a frog or something like that.
Right, yeah.
That I would say was the same species, it's developed into an adult now. But if a species is developing over here, and all of a sudden I don't know the exact answer to that question. I can speculate though. Two possibilities that I know of. One is that the species over here, or these individuals over here, they used to be the same species, but now they're over here, or another part of the jungle, another part of the world. They've been developing, and they can no longer produce fertile offspring with this other variation. They used to be the same species, but now so much development has happened, they're no longer able to produce fertile offspring. That might be the point at which you can say it's a new species. What is it, donkeys and horses? I mean, they can produce offspring, but they can't produce fertile offspring, and so they're considered different species for that reason. I don't think that's the only way to tell things are different species, but it seems like a pretty good one to me. Yeah.
So just to sort of load up our arsenal.
Sure.
If someone on the street were like, hey, we came from monkeys, we came from apes, how are you going to answer that in like 2 sentences? Because
What's
I
the
can't give
evidence
this
for that?
whole thing. Pardon?
What's the evidence for that?
Oh, dude, it's Darwin's theory of evolution.
You gotta get better than that. Yeah, but that's not enough to say that we...
My dad has a ton of hair on his back.
I'll grant that there are likenesses. I just don't know why so the problem that or the objection that you're dealing with is, we came from monkeys. Maybe in some qualified sense, maybe our bodies developed from monkeys. I guess it's possible. But there's other problems that would arise that would need to be addressed in some qualified sense. Yeah, Father, you're trying to get it? Go ahead.
You could say, you probably.
That'll get you real
Well, human beings are a tough case because human beings are rational, and there's no other creature that's rational. And it does seem like there are similarities between us and, between us and some animals, like monkeys. Apparently, we share a lot of the same DNA, but where the rationality came
So there's
from,
no
that's just
evidence.
mysterious.
there's no evidence that, yeah, I'd like to say, like, at one point, they developed into becoming rational beings. That's not,
But is that plausible?
is that plausible?
Like the whole idea of like, well, maybe we did, and at some point God breathed the rationality into them.
And infused the
That's
soul.
what I would be inclined, that's where I would be inclined to place my opinion, yeah.
That's John Paul II kind of wrote about that. He said there appears to be a physical evolution, but we must hold that at a certain point in time. God did infuse the rational soul.
Yeah, and I think Father John Harden talked about that too in one of his, he had a book, it was a catechism of the Catholic Church. I remember reading a long time ago. Has anybody ever heard of that book?
Yeah.
By Father John Harden? Anyway, and there I remember he put forth just a speculation that maybe when it talks about God formed man from the slime of the earth, maybe in concrete human history, what that was is the irrational beasts got their matter got close enough to the matter that was necessary to receive a human soul. Maybe something like that happened, and God breathed life into that, and then it was rational. But who knows? All that we do know is this, and this is by revelation, is that the doctrine of original sin. We are all descended from Adam and Eve. We are not descended from multiple different human individuals at some point. So, however those first two individuals came to be, it's not clear from the scriptures precisely or distinctly how that happened. We know that God was the creator, He's the origin of all things, and we know that they were the parents of the entire human race, and that's why we all share in the mark of original sin. So I would say the doctrine of original sin demands that there are only two parents, and where those first parents came from is a matter of speculation, it seems to me. So I'm not sure. Yeah, Father.
There's evidence that all women throughout the world share a similar mitochondria. They call this kind of a mitochondrial lead or something like that, where science actually has shown that we are all from this one woman in East Africa.
There's evidence that we're all descended from one individual
Yes.
from our species.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you can look that up and say to that person, it's interesting that science has said that we're all from this one original woman, East Africa. I just read it today. And so, but the point is well taken to say, when did God breathe that rationality into that person? To bring it back to God, because there's got to be an ultimate, an uncaused cause. And like what you said, people are missing out on what is science doing. Science is discovering laws, and there must be a law here.
Yeah, that's right.
That would eliminate this, that theory would eliminate the 6-day chronological creation. Like that it was exactly 6 days.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
You have a verification that we didn't hear smash your argument or something.
I have a question. The part of your talk that I liked the most was
The end.
In a certain sense, in the sense of the purpose. Like the purpose of God that would have guided creation could have left those, I think you said something seminal, like a seed-like impulse inside matter that would have blossomed at certain set times under conditions that He Himself would have set up to flourish at just like the fullness of time in His plan.
That's what St. Thomas says, yeah.
And I was curious whether that explains away irreducible complexity, the notion that all different types of these things could just develop all at once. Or whether, I still don't understand what our answer is for irreducible complexity. That's the short answer, or a short question.
Good question. So how does if there is some kind of intelligence guided evolution, how would that resolve the irreducible complexity? Well, I think there's more than one possible way it could happen. If God is guiding the development of these species, I guess it could happen that slight changes could happen just in one generation. if you ordered things that way. Or another possibility would be, I mean, the problem for the materials evolution with irreducible complexity is that only organs that have some function are going to stick around. If they have no survival advantage, then they should just dwindle away and disappear. So if something's going to develop slowly, piece by piece, and the only principle is survival of the fittest and survival advantage, then these organs, these irreducibly complex organs, shouldn't develop. But it seems to me that if you say, well, there are other principles that work too, like the purposes that God's placed in things, or natural inclinations God's placed in things, well, couldn't those things sustain the development over several generations if more was needed?
Are you saying that my appendix could have a purpose sometime in the future? It could blossom in its fullness?
No, that over time, we will be born without one.
Okay.
That would be it over time.
They're gonna put your appendix where your brain will go when it disintegrates.
And we know people that it may be that way.
I think it's possible. I don't know that it's likely, but I think it's possible. Mr. Lang.
I have another question. Okay, so metaphysical objection to the idea of evolution. Forms or essences intrinsically seek to preserve themselves. And that's what it means to be, is to persevere in self-preservation. And to arrive at a state of arrive at a state of being that in its higher level of perfection, as you pointed out, is less changing and more stable. On the basis of forms being an aspect of the natural order, how is that compatible with the idea that they would seek some perfection that would result in their own destruction in the line? Yeah, of their species, right? Because the species is a form.
Yeah, that's what determines your species is your form. Yeah.
So how do you explain that contradiction?
I don't see the contradiction. Not that there isn't one. I'm sorry. I don't understand the question.
Okay. So species, by definition, seek self-preservation.
Okay, I think that's right.
How is that compatible with the fact that the evolutionary process is essentially eradicating the species or higher species?
Maybe that's their purpose. No, that doesn't make any sense.
Like a contradiction.
I have a question, kind of touching on that, or I guess it's, emerging. It seems like you mentioned the materialist problem is that there's no purpose, and, so these species keep on evolving or disappearing by just blind chance. And contrary to that, a Catholic or an acceptable view for a Catholic would be that there is a purpose and everything is seeking to be more perfect rather than just to survive it. Because if everything was trying to survive, then no species could go extinct. However, if there are, let's say, perfect forms that every species is aiming towards, then maybe what we've seen in the past are not actual species, but things falling short of those perfect forms.
It's like the Platonist objection.
Yes.
Where do those forms exist?
So, well, I guess maybe they don't exist yet. Maybe they're what each thing in its perfection is striving towards. And so when you, Mr. Lillian, were saying before, species are disappearing, which seems contrary to their nature, because they should be trying to preserve their essence. Maybe they're not actually, maybe they haven't attained the perfection of their species, so they're actually a transition, they're not a true species. And I guess I'm trying to understand the difference between the materialist view and the one that is acceptable, and I'm wondering if the distinction is just as simple as one having purpose and one
species are developing, and the form wants to preserve itself, or the species wants to preserve itself, and yet they're, because this progression is happening, it seems like part of their form is going to be to just do their thing in the progression, and then they're going to be out of existence, and that's a problem. Is that right?
Well, or maybe, again, kind of precisely, the definition of the species is that it's formal, that it makes a thing a certain way, and that's the whole point, is that it becomes some specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the good of that thing, is to be that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that it's going to become something so that it's no longer that thing, which is sort of what evolution presupposes, is that gradually it's going to no longer seek the perfection of itself, but seek perfection that's higher than itself by becoming another species. That seems like a contradiction in terms. So it seems like you either have to evaluate and say, maybe there are species, really strictly speaking, or you have to say, maybe there's some change within species broadly construed, but it's all kind of all in the same family, right? Does that make sense? So like kind of
I think
think
so.
of the distinction between microevolution and macroevolution.
Or like maybe, even though none of its precursors are around anymore, all the precursors of the blue whale were still all whales. So the
Yeah,
species
something-
isn't really gone, it's still around, it's just drastically different from how it was
Yeah,
before.
like are those finches really different? I mean, so like.
Depends on how you define the species.
Yeah, right, so from a taxonomy standpoint, it would be valuable, like if you're an Audubon or something, but in terms of the philosopher,
Yeah.
that would look, he would still say those are all words or something.
So couldn't you say about let's say you have, I mean, we do see that kind of thing where something, it wants to sustain its own existence, and yet at the same time, it seems like it's ordered toward losing its existence. I'm thinking of like grass, it seems like grass is there so that animals can eat it, but it's not good for the grass that it gets eaten by the cow, because now the grass is just, it's gone, it's part of the cow now.
Mm-hmm.
How now, brown cow.
Well, or it
so-
seems, this is true that, I mean, one paradox is reproduction is clearly outside of itself, right? Reproduction is clearly ordered towards something other than the survival of one given creature.
Yeah.
So it's clear that in some way, the species seeks to preserve itself beyond the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe in one respect, the purpose of the grass, or the species of the grass, wants to preserve itself, in quotations, doesn't want consciously. But with respect, in another respect, it is ordered toward other things. And so the apparent contradiction is that, well, the grass is ordered toward preserving itself and it's ordered toward its own destruction. That's a contradiction. I thought that was the problem you were bringing up.
But that one, it would be ordered and purpose because it was to sustain some other species, which would point to God's order, that everything is connected to each other.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
It's self-preservation because it's something.
I was thinking like in some limited sense, it is ordered toward its own preservation, but in a more universal sense, it's part of a larger ecosystem or something like that, and so it also has a purpose that is beyond itself, and so that would resolve the contradiction. I think might resolve the contradiction. Ooh, lots of people. Did you hand up, sir?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think the main thing I took away is the last thing you have there, and I kind of want to follow that a little bit. But I mean, in reality, as Catholics, we're freer than anybody else. I mean, the materialists are